In the vibrant center of a vast urban area, where the pace is relentless and cultural diversity is the norm, a vast group of devotees walked in solemn adoration. They carried the beautiful statue of Our Lady, longing for just a moment of spiritual calm. Suddenly, the tranquility was shattered not by physical attacks, but by a concerted outpouring of mockery and ridicule, specifically designed to destabilize the faith of hundreds of hearts. But such a surprising and overwhelming display of spiritual strength completely reversed the situation. But first, I invite you to write in the comments the intentions and names of your loved ones and friends who, in your opinion, cry out most intensely for God's intercession and comforting presence, as we will include all these supplications in the rosary prayer chain that we will share at the end of this video report. The spiritual march advanced with dignity and composure through the heavily traveled streets, an unusual spectacle of manifest faith that offered a stark counterpoint to the daily rush of life characteristic of such a vast metropolis. This unity formed a dome of placidity amidst the frenzy outside. Participants sang softly toned songs of praise, and each step on the asphalt constituted a profound prayer, asking for renewed courage, inner tranquility, and the guardianship of home and family. The vitality of this surrender to the Mother of Jesus was almost tactile, perceived not merely as an element of historical reverence, but as a spiritually present teacher who intercedes in times of tribulation, bestowing a divine calm that worldly precepts could never provide. Many held notes with formulated requests, others merely expressed their pain through silent weeping, seeking comfort and a deep desire for the redemption of those they loved. They reinforced their pact of faith and conviction in the concrete manifestation of Christ, who becomes visible where two or more gather in solidarity. It was a moment of communal reparation, where each individual placed their existence, their most difficult struggles, and their highest aspirations under heavenly patronage. It was impossible to foresee that this island of hope would, in the blink of an eye, be violated by a disturbing and well-planned action that would serve, paradoxically, to highlight the invulnerability of the faith that opponents sought to ridicule. At this precise point in the journey, the respectful harmony of the pilgrimage was abruptly disrupted. Upon reaching an intersection, a group of agitators appeared, claiming to be atheists, shouting loudly and wielding aggressive pamphlets. Their purpose was clear. It was not an invitation to debate, but rather an orchestrated attempt to dispel the serenity and cloak the marchers' convictions in sarcasm. They made gestures of profound disrespect toward the image of Our Lady and uttered ironic refrains that attempted to overpower the volume of the sacred music. This group, made up of individuals embracing ideals of religious denial and harsh criticism, used every possible tactic to create chaos, placing themselves directly in the route, forcing the vast congregation to stop. The devotees' first instinct was shock and frustration, accompanied by a wave of heat from the embarrassment of the offense and the sense of injustice at seeing their worship and meditation period violated so directly and blatantly. This episode served to reaffirm that, even in the purest manifestations of faith, opposition will always arise to assess the degree of tenacity of the spirit. At that inflection point, with the risk of the confusion degenerating into a futile and pitiful physical clash, there was a moment of stillness. The younger pilgrims and those most ready to revolt hesitated, almost prepared to defend the route with retorts or confrontations. The most basic impulse was to retaliate in kind, allowing fury and bewilderment to nullify the intrinsic meaning of that moment of veneration. This was the true examination of their faith, the moment of deciding whether to respond according to worldly standards or to follow the model taught by the Holy Scriptures. It was there, in the public space, that the Mother's pacifying presence had to intervene. One of the event's leaders, an elderly man whose faith shone through his calm countenance, performed the action that decided the course. He raised his hands in a plea for calm and, instead of rebuking the turbulent individuals, he addressed the believers with the most radical doctrine bequeathed by the Messiah. The voice of that experienced man was not raised in protest. He simply resumed the practice of prayer loud and clear. However, the prayer took on a new and powerful meaning. It was directed not at the blessed, but precisely at those who were creating the tumult. Heavenly Father, forgive their ignorance, for they do not understand the act they are committing. Immediately, All gathered grasped the invitation to exercise authentic charity, the one instituted by Jesus, who commands us to love even our enemies and to pray for those who afflict us. The deafening clamor of the detractors was immediately overcome, not by louder shouting, but by the organized and growing sound of the rosary in full recitation. The contrast was absolutely dramatic. While one group raged with aggression and mockery, the other responded with invocations full of forgiveness and solicitude, radiating an aura of divine serenity directly over the hostile coalition, as if to cover the instigators with an invisible cloak of intercession. This demonstration of meekness and resignation, this response to rancor with practical affection, completely neutralized the firepower of the skeptics, who watched their arsenal of insults lose its purpose and effectiveness in the face of this unquestionable proof of grace and compassion. The instigators of the disturbance, accustomed to eliciting reactions of violence or retreat, felt profound discomfort at this unusual attitude. How could they retaliate against a chorus of intercessors crying out for their own benefit? How could they maintain irony when others, with closed eyes and in a deep state of prayer, commended them to the Creator, begging for a change of life and eternal salvation? The provocative intent lost its relevance, and the shame fell upon those who sought to impose it. The disturbance left the believers' side to settle in the souls of the mockers, who felt suddenly exposed not to fury, but to a manifestation of boundless benevolence, completely unprecedented in their life experience, a response to their hatred that they could never have conceived. The inevitable consequence was that, after a few minutes of remarkable discomfort, and with the powerful volume of the rosary chant asserting its supremacy, the hostile group, defeated not by physical vigor but by an eminently spiritual force, simply disbanded and abandoned the procession area. Nevertheless, the most touching corollary of this singular event occurred not on that day, but in the weeks that followed, irrefutably proving that the power of the heavenly calm is capable of fertilizing the most inhospitable soil of disbelief. In the days immediately following the confrontation, some individuals in that youth group, who had witnessed firsthand the believers' charitable serenity, began to experience an unpredictable internal transformation, a strange silence in their routines previously saturated with censure and agitation. That unexpected prayer on their behalf, that act of genuine forgiveness, seemed to shatter a fortress of emotional and rational indifference, propelling some to an unprecedented introspection about the true nature of that conviction that was capable of opposing hatred with such composure and resilience. This internal questioning metamorphosed for some of them into a journey of searching, culminating in the full realization of the miracle. The effect of prayer and mercy led some of these young people to experience contact with the presence of Christ for the first time. The outcome was the complete adherence of part of the group to the faith, demonstrating that the resignation and tranquility provided by Our Lady, invoked at the heart of the provocation, have the innate capacity to forge the most profound changes in any spirit, even in those who were stubbornly recalcitrant to the truth. This experience during the penitential journey serves as a powerful archetype for the challenges we face daily, indicating that religious conviction is not limited to crying out in favorable times, but rather, and above all, in those moments when we are most inclined to react vehemently or give in to discouragement. Our existence is constantly populated by subtle or overt adversaries, those who diligently try to steal our peace, whether through critical comments, veiled envy, slander, or direct affront to our worship. The genuinely Christian response is not to engage in the petty conflict, but to raise the prayer of the Rosary as a standard. It is through persistence in our intercessions on behalf of our family, our home environment, the preservation of our hope, and the relentless pursuit of our own spiritual improvement that we find the strength necessary to pronounce blessings instead of curses. The sincere granting of forgiveness is the act that breaks the chains that imprison us, benefiting not only the forgiving heart but, crucially, the one who receives this unexpected grace, triggering a metanoia that only divine action can achieve. For this reason, reaffirm your desire for transformation. Use the comments once again to record the names of those individuals you are certain urgently need a turnaround in their lives. We will be united with you in supplication, praying that the protective mantle of Our Lady's peace may fall upon them. What is your in-depth analysis regarding the effectiveness of the calm intrinsic to forgiveness and prayer? Do you believe that the best approach to neutralizing hostility is to respond to anger with an even greater portion of affection, even if it represents an immense sacrifice? Share your frank consideration of your personal strategies in the face of such trials. If this communication touched your soul and solidified your conviction in the transformative potential that comes from peace and charity, be sure to express your approval of this material and subscribe to the channel to continually receive more inspiring stories of profound spirituality. May the restorative calm of Jesus and the blessing of Our Lady abundantly flood your home.